So we are going to make a bacon and butternut risotto. Very simple, it involves a lot of stirring, which we find that children really like stirring. So this is something you can get them to do while you can do other things. So I've got a butternut squash here. I'm going to take off the top and the bottom, but we want to cut at the top of where the shape changes from straight to bulbous. And I'm going to just start cutting down like this. This is actually easier than using a peeler. And I'm going to cut it down in lengths like this. Now these are the size pieces I would then give to a child to cut up. And we go back to a child size knife, and then they can cut this into the size pieces that they want. Let's put that onto our roasting tray, and we would put some olive oil over the top, some salt and some pepper, and then just mix it up to make sure that it's all well coated in all of those things. And then I would roast that for half an hour or so, giving it a stir a couple of times while we're doing that. To start our risotto, we need to chop onions and garlic. For the onion, we want to cut it in half from the bottom to the top. It is then much easier to peel it because you can get your fingers underneath the top bit. We have what we here call the hairy bottom. And we do that just to make it easier for children to remember. But it also has the semicircle of the root there. And we want to leave that on till last. So we're going to cut the top end off first. So that what we end up with is like a hand that's still attached. And then I can hold it, clamp it with my thumb and my forefinger and cut acrossways. I'm going to put in just some lardons. And we're going to put a bit of olive oil in and we'll start cooking that. So I'm going to put that on a medium temperature. And while we're doing that, we can do the garlic. So I'm going to take the bottom off. I want to take the root end off of the garlic, put that on there. Give it a really good squash, then the skin just falls off, we get rid of that. We're going to use some sage. For this we want a little bit to go in at the beginning, and then we'll decorate a bit at the end as well. And throw that in as well, get some flavour in there at the beginning. So for this recipe I need 300 grams of rice. If you use a normal long grain rice, it just won't work. It will go all soggy and mushy. You need a short grain rice. We've got some butter, which I'm going to throw in just before the rice goes in here. So we just want our onions to start changing from solid white colour to translucent. They start going a little bit see-through. It's up to you whether you'd like to use wine in this recipe, depending on who you're cooking for. The alcohol will all bubble off, so we don't have to worry too much about if it's young children eating it if we put the wine in, but if you prefer not to use the wine, you can just use a little bit more stock. It doesn't really matter. So I'm going to add my garlic now. I'm now going to add the butter because we're ready to put the rice in. This is going to take about half an hour to cook completely. So our butter has melted, so we can add our rice now. So I can hear it starting to pop and fizz now, and it's starting to just stick a little bit to the bottom. So we want to stir it to make sure it's not sticking. And I'm going to pour in my wine. I've got 150 millilitres of white wine there. We need to stir that until the wine is all absorbed into the rice. So now I can start adding my stock. And the quantities are not that exact. So I had 300 millilitres of chicken stock there. That might not be enough, but we can add more water if we need a little bit more. You can always add a bit of milk too, you can add some cream at the end. There's no exact science for this. And then when it's absorbed most of this liquid, we're going to add our butternut. And we're also going to add some lemon juice. This also means that you don't need as much salt, so if you're cooking with children and you don't want to put too much salt in, lemon juice does the same job of lifting the flavours up. I can start grating some of the parmesan. Half of the cheese in there to stir in and melt, and then the other half we'll put on the top. Pine nuts here that we've just roasted in the oven for 10 minutes just to give them a bit of colour and a bit of toasty flavour. And then I'm going to add some torn sage leaves on the top like this.